I try and capture a lot of women's businesses so we can refer and help each other in the sense of, hey, you need a video editor. I'm making up. I don't. And here's a video editor mom. And like, oh, here's you need plates for a birthday party. Here's Picky Terry. She has compostable like plate. Oh, you're doing a booth at ABC Kids Show. Like, here's a trade show woman. Like, all these things of moms can help each other. Moms, instead of just like using some random, 21-year-old guy on Craigslist. I mean, obviously they need jobs too, but I feel as if moms get stuff done faster. We can all support each other. We understand the flexibility of like, you tell me to do something.
Hello and welcome to the And Both podcast. Here we are going to hear from moms and those in motherhood that are doing the thing that works for them. They are honoring themselves alongside the all-encompassing role and level of expectation that is motherhood. And we are going to hear from as many different people as possible in their own experience. So you can find people to relate to. You can hear stories that will make you laugh, make you cry, all of the above. And that we will come together as a community to support one another in a way that is holistic and honoring of the woman and the mother as a whole. All right, welcome back to the And Both podcast. I am here today with Brooke Shapiro, and I don't usually have like a topic to talk about, but there is a little bit of a topic today, so we'll get into that. But first of all, she owns Sprinkles Parents with Sprinkles Parents Consulting and Sprinkles Parents Community and Consulting.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah.
Got it all. So first of all, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and I know we had to reschedule. So I appreciate you being so flexible with me as, I feel like every mom plans and then kids or grandparents and everyone else, school laughs. So I'm happy we can get.
Yes. Oh, me too. I'm really happy. So how about we'll start with tell people a little bit about you and who you are and whatever you want. There is no we're not playing Mad Libs here. So whatever you want to say.
Sure. So let's see. Well, first off, I'm a mom of an autistic son, Jace, who's 5.5. Very important. I say that half. And then my 3-year-old daughter, Raina, who is feisty as hell and, it's amazing, but raising a strong girl is hard. And I have been working in marketing actually in the parent space since 2009. I worked on Babies R Us. And I promised myself I would never have kids because I saw a breast pump and was so scared. I was like, I'm not doing that. Not happening. And through that journey, I worked on Babies R Us, Toys R Us. And I worked lastly at Clorox on Hidden Valley Ranch to try, because I was like, how hard could it be to get your kids to eat vegetables? And I always just worked in the parenting space. And my story is when I told my manager I was pregnant in 2018, I was so excited. And I was like excited about my promotion. I'm pregnant. Like finally everything's sort of falling in place. And when I told him, he was like, oh yeah, you've gained a lot of weight. And that promotion, like we can talk about it when you come back and are more settled as, a new mom, because I'm not going to promote you while you're pregnant and, when you're about to go on vacation, he called it. And so that really sparked me being frustrated with like how managers should respond, how to support moms in the workplace, how to support parents. And so just within Clorox, I started making resources, bringing in speakers, just trying to help parents stay afloat. Especially moms in the pump room were always crying. I called it the crying room. So I used to like surprise everyone with coffee, and lactation consultants come in and speak to us, or sleep consultant. And long story short, we turned it into this parents ERG. And then 2020 hit. And so I was trying to figure out how to help parents in the workforce. My daughter didn't take a bottle and I had a traveling job. So I was laid off as a result because I couldn't be traveling around. And from there, it turned into just helping parents within my community in the Bay Area. So that's where Sprinkles Community started, where I was providing education, activities, resources to about 10,000 families now in the area that just need support before their kids start school and have that resource in kindergarten. And then from there, I just started helping other brands that needed to connect to parents that had great products and great solutions, which is and how we were connected so that parents know, how to get support from their families, how to get support with their children, like how to connect to all the dots because it's not as easy as it used to be parenting. It's getting more and more complicated every year.
True. So true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so you were working for Clorox.
Mm-hmm.
You had gone, had a baby, came back, developed all of these resources while still doing the Clorox gig after you went on vacation, air quotes, because it's an audio only podcast, air quotes and gag mouth. And then, so you, despite the fact that they were really not, this was not the wheelhouse, you like came to the forefront of this, created all these resources, created this community, helped out people in an area of this massive company that could do this on their own and provide the resources.
Yeah.
And then they laid you off.
Yeah, because it was a passion project to them. Your job isn't based off of, the ERG work you do or your extra work. It's based off of sales of bleach, or it's based off of, I was working on Lowe's at the time and I was supposed to move to North Carolina or go back and forth to North Carolina. It was based off of productivity, about the results to the business you're driving, everything like that. So I was actually laid off twice within Clorox. The first time when I came back for my first one, after 4 months, they did a round of layoffs and so I got laid off by one team and another team heard I was getting laid off in a different department and swiped me up. And then another team wanted me. So that was very stressful to figure out which team within the company I'd choose, getting laid off. They actually wanted to move me to Bentonville, Arkansas, actually, as part of me. I know. And I was like, I'm Jewish. I can't move to Bentonville, Arkansas. No offense to anyone there, anyone Jewish there. It's just like, there would be no support community really for me. So I was like, that wasn't be best for my family. That's great. That's like one of your solutions. So long story short, we negotiate. I got onto another team after laid off from my first team and was supposed to move to North Carolina April 2020. So then April 2020 came along. Obviously, March 2020 came along. I was feeling nauseous. I had a headache. I definitely thought I had COVID. Turns out I was pregnant with my second. Same symptoms. And then I told them a few months later, we all were like, okay, I can't move in the heat of a pandemic. But in a few months, I would move in August or something. But then when I was pregnant, I was like, I can't move, 8.5 months pregnant in a pandemic with a toddler, blah, blah, blah. So then when I returned to work that following March, they're like, okay, you're moving now. And, or you're just going to need to keep flying back and forth to North Carolina. And I was like, well, I'm pumping, my daughter, but my daughter doesn't take a bottle. So it would just be like a nightmare. I'd have to take her with me or dump it or so it just was too much. And they're doing another round of layoffs and it was just squeaky wheels. It was my time to go. I think it was the push you need that to help me on this journey to help support parents and to help companies market to parents and whatever else it is I'm supposed to be doing. So it's a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. Big disguise though.
Definitely big disguise.
Hefty disguise. Yeah. Oh, this stuff, it's one of those things, when it comes to pregnancy, I think, when it comes to pregnancy, you don't know what it's going to be like. And then you don't know what all on its own. And then you layer in career and you layer in dynamics and you layer in all of these pieces. And then to top that all off, you have people that are just who buys Clorox? Parents buy Clorox because they need Clorox because they have children and children make messes. Or whatever it is. Parents go to Babies R Us. All of these places are associated with families. But to have these, to just have that even that language, this is your vacation and sorry, you're just going to have to make decisions and all that stuff. It still blows my mind that in 2020, you can say, my kid does not take a bottle and somebody is looks at it like that's a choice. You know what I mean? It's well, just do that. And you're like, I forgot my manager or my whoever who has no children is just like I have friends who are like, your kids don't eat like this, just feed it to them. And I'm like, it doesn't work that way. Like, because if it did work that way, nobody would have these problems. Like, if your kid doesn't take a bottle, your kid doesn't take a bottle.
Well, it was like a spiral. Because first of all, I mean, of course, you're going back to work and it's 4 months. So that's like peak postpartum depression. So I'm postpartum depressed. Like, my husband is just like, pull your shit together. And I'm like, I ain't trying to
I don't know where my shit is.
Yeah, like,
I can't. Like, do you have a cart?
Together. Yeah.
Yeah. You find my shit and then you put it in a basket and I'll put a bow on it and we'll call that putting the shit together. But right now my shit is everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like coming back to work, I'm postpartum depressed. I'm like not ready, but like, you're paid from like a corporate standpoint, right? Your maternity is up. You need the income coming in at the time. I had I had no choice but to go back to work, right? Or you don't get paid. And so my daughter's not taking bottles. So then as a result of that, what I was going to say is, I drop her off at preschool. I mean, even as a pandemic, so very few, daycares were taking babies at 4 or 5 months old. And I got lucky, which is early if you think about it. And the pandemic still,
yeah,
in 2021, still the pandemic. So found this old lady who was willing to take my 4-month-old baby. And I didn't even tell her that she didn't take a bottle because I was worried she wouldn't take her. So then the whole time I'm returning back to work, they're calling me, your daughter doesn't take a bottle. She's starving. We can't not feed a baby. Understandably, legally, they have to write it down. So I would be trying to work, run to the daycare, breastfeed my child, drop my child off, run back to work, go breastfeed my child, go back to work. And it was just my husband, everyone, and I'm trying to keep this a secret, right? I'm not telling because I was still able to work from home, thank God. Imagine if I'd be actually in an office. But it was not easy because I'm running in my car, feeding my baby in the car, because the daycare doesn't have a place for me to breastfeed a baby. So I'm feeding her in the car, handing her back. Then, that makes my baby wants to go back to mom. So then she's crying and I'm crying. So it was a really hard time. Yeah. And so it was just all the things. So that's why, when I work with bottle companies now and I work with baby companies because I feel I've been there. I know sure, yes, you need a bottle that might sing to a baby, or yes, but if the baby says they're not taking a bottle, it's not, my kid was stubborn enough to starve.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's it's wild. It's there's so much. I mean, the internet is a magical and not so magical place. So I was looking at care related stuff. So I have a care tech platform that launched and I'm on there and there's this whole group, which I didn't even, it makes sense, but it tragically makes sense. There's a whole group of moms who told their employer that they were pregnant and got laid off.
Huh?
So laid off pregnant and, and working for a tech company. So they're the tech market is whatever it is, and we need to lay people off. And so instead of discrimination, or instead of being sued for discrimination, they're terminating positions under the guise of we're doing this. And a bunch of people have successfully sued. And I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that this is still a thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to prove. So my husband's actually an employment lawyer. And so when I was laid off with my first son, actually, only a few months after I came back from maternity leave, I was like, well, this is strange. It's very soon. I just came back from maternity leave. I
just found my keys. I just got back in the building. What? That's crazy.
Yeah, my first day back actually from maternity leave, my new team was on a offsite or something. And they didn't even tell me. So I had to come to an open to the office, even though no one was there, which made no sense. No one could tell me even where a pump room was. So I left after a few hours because I'm well, no one can answer where a pump room is. But anyways, it's so hard to prove that you're laid off because of being maternity leave or because mine were always a few months after, they're 2-3 months after. There's no proof. There's no proof that, because my kid didn't take a bottle, and I can't travel. I can't prove it. It's so many hoops you'd have to jump through. I don't have access to my old emails. I don't have records of it. It's my manager who told me, makes sense. You gained weight in your vacation. His word against mine. It's not. They don't record the rooms, And who was I going to report it to?
Gross.
Him? Like my manager, report my manager.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a weird world it is. And so originally when I started Sprinkle's Parents, when I first left, I was like, okay, I'm going to bring it to companies and be like training employees how to speak to pregnant families, what your pregnant policy should look like, how to support parents once they return to leave, and be like an outside person instead of having an employee do it on top of their day job, right? Especially when it's the parents one, because parents are busy enough. They don't need the parents resource group to take care of their kids to take care of,
Well, and you've already done that.
Right,
like you've already did.
But it turned out companies, don't ever have the extra funds to allocate towards that, So it's a long tail model. And so that was not going to pay for diapers. Like everything I joke, as a mom, you're doing it for diapers. Like not like, oh, like until I get my kids out of diapers and out of preschool, I feel like I'm just like, got to keep going.
Yeah, you're chugging. And so you now have, Sprinkle's Parents has community resources, you have online resources, you have classes, tell me all about that, because that sounds like really the pot of gold at the end of the parenting rainbow.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah. So I try and do more like unexpected things to like make that handbook. I feel like they forgot to give me at the hospital. Like one of our courses is how to dress postpartum, how to do wills, trusts, and estates, how to potty train a child that's not, following the typical things and having conversations, how to sleep train with visible load of motherhood, busy to balance, all those types of online courses, financial planning for your kids, thinking about your 529s. Do you need it? Do you not? All of those types of courses. And then in person, we do like play groups at parks, at different play spaces, at different schools. In Oakland, it's actually a lottery to get into schools. So figuring out how the lottery works and how to get into schools is like very confusing. What? Yeah, you're not guaranteed your local school. So you have to like apply for a lottery and it's a ranking system. So it's based off.
I can't. Oh my God.
So it's very stressful because you really have no idea what school your kids could go to until you get, like I picked 5 schools that were not my local school because you have that option. So you can pick like the best school, you could pick, one close to your work in theory, you can pick one wherever. But I got like my 5th choice. But because of the rankings, because it goes like, if you live in the area, if you have a sibling, if you have a foster kid or like someone in the foster care system, and then, the rankings, it's just like, so anyway, so we have those type of resources. My son, like I mentioned, has special needs. So we did a sound bath for kids with local sound bath specialists, and working out with your kids. We've done just lots of different activities to help parents. That's just my goal. Make parents' lives easier.
I love it because really, I feel like one of the things that's really overwhelming, or that I have felt in the past very overwhelmed by, is especially when you have a new kid, is you think that you know all of the resources in your community. And you probably do as like an adult, right? Like you can get in the car and you can drive to whatever you need to do or wherever you need to go. But learning the community in a different way, looking at your own community with a completely different lens as a parent, is like, okay, well, it's 8:00 in the morning. My kid has been awake for 3 hours. I have been awake for I don't know how many hours. What do I do? Like what is available? Because if I walk in the loop around my house one more time, I might lose my mind. So like I need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
How do I? So like you're creating these landing pads for people and opening up the community for them.
Yeah, like we would do 8 a.m. new moms coffee, just knowing that who else is up at 8 a.m. besides the new moms at the different coffee shops. I found the coffee shops in the area. Some have little play spaces. So we will meet up at those coffee shops when they're available, and just like making those partnerships with the coffee shop. So we get like discounts and we can meet up, and we have space for strollers, which also if you're meeting up with friends, you need to think about now, where has strollers? My favorite coffee shop doesn't have a changing table, so I couldn't go there anymore on a Saturday morning because every time I tried, it would be a poop explosion. I'd be like, and I'd be scrambling trying to change my kid's diaper in their stroller. So I had to like change my habits and go to this other coffee shop that I knew had a changing table, right? Same with
Yeah.
restaurants. So we have like lists of restaurants in the area that are kid friendly. Activities you can do, like neurodiversity, like support systems, like your advocate, your OTs, your PTs, anything you could need like that in one document as well that I share with everyone in my community. Babysitters, we have a babysitter list that everyone could put like what babysitter works best for them and that they like if they want to share their phone numbers. Because I feel like we're all figuring out and then everyone hoards things. Like everyone's like hoarding
Yes.
information nowadays. Like instead of it being a village where we're all helping each other, it's like, I'm not sharing my babysitter with you. I'm not going to share the secret, doctor or swaddle I figured out. Like, I don't get it. Like, anytime I learn something that works for me, I'm happy to share if it can help one other mom. And maybe it doesn't work for your kid because every kid's different, but at least you knew, you know?
You have to have a serious spreadsheet talent game going on. Because I feel like you and I were talking on the phone or like over Zoom about something, and you sent me an email like 3 minutes later, and it had this like big spreadsheet of like other people, and you were just like, "Here you go." And first of all, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna have to make sure my glasses are on straight so I can read this thing because there is so much information in here, and it's like literally everything that I was looking for or thinking about." And like you just rattled off, I don't know, 30 things. And you're like, yeah, no, I have a resource. I have a this, I have that. Like, do you sleep?
No.
Okay.
No, but I think I can't remember what I sent to you. It may have been my women's referral circle. So what I want, I want us all to help each other. So I try and capture a lot of women's businesses so we can refer and help each other in the sense of, hey, you need a video editor. I'm making up. I don't. And here's a video editor mom. And like, oh, here's you need plates for a birthday party. Here's Picky Terry. She has compostable like plates. Oh, you're doing a booth at ABC Kids Show. Like, here's a trade show woman. Like, all these things of moms can help each other. Moms, instead of just like using some random, 21-year-old guy on Craigslist. I mean, obviously they
Yeah.
need jobs too, but I feel as if moms get stuff done faster. We can all support each other. We understand the flexibility of like, you tell me to do something, I can get it done. If I tell like a 21-year-old to do something, he might drag it out, he might postpone it. But like, I got to get shit done before bedtime. I only have 2 hours till pick up. I'm going to get stuff done somehow. And I think that's magical. But yeah, I don't sleep. I really should, but I've never slept my entire life. I'm not a good sleeper. Like, really.
So it's not a new thing.
No, my parents are here again. And they say, like, I've just never slept. Like, they don't know how I'm alive.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, because it's just like, it's that I love what you're saying about like having the resources to go around because I have gone through this. I've gone through this in my own space of like business building and like, how do you get in touch with people and who do you get in touch with? And then there is that added element of like, I need someone that I can count on to get the stuff done. And if they're not going to get the stuff done, then like whatever it is, right? Like I've gotten burned by, all of those like posting sites, whatever. And I actually stopped going on them and just started doing like referrals legitimately of other moms.
Wow. It's amazing.
Because I just can't do it. And it's also too like when you have that conversation with the 21-year-old or, whatever, and you're like, no, like this needs to get done right now. And they're like, and in a way that's not like, doesn't sound like that, but it's like, this is my deadline. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry. And I'm like, no, because there's 30 things. And if I put you in the queue here because you say you can do it here, like I need this to get done. Meanwhile, like I have like met with moms, like podcasts, like shifted around. Like I'm so happy to move things around so long as like people can like there's like communication. Like you were like, I can't meet. I'm like, that's fine, whatever. Like let's do this. Versus like so many times with like the 21-year-old, I'm like sitting on the Zoom call waiting for the thing to come up and I get an email like an hour later. It's like, oh yeah, hey, sorry. I'm like, do you know how much coordination it took to get me to like be able to put on these headphones? Like it's so It's so many logistics. It's so many.
Yeah. And if it's, for you, and, in the parenting space or taking the caregiver space, again, I used to work in marketing for Babies R Us before I had kids. And I never, I got it, but I never got it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like they would have to explain to me. I remember, like I said, they're explaining to me what a breast pump is. And I'm trying to market a breast pump. I'm like, but how does it work? Like, what's the reason? Why would you really want it? I couldn't wrap my head around it half the time with any baby product because I wasn't in it. I wasn't a mom. I wasn't, trying to juggle 1,000 things. I just kept reading because I get the insights report from big corporations like Coca-Cola. used to sell soda to Hispanic moms, which is terrible to help their baby's stomach.
Yeah.
And it's awful. But I didn't know at 21. I thought that's what I was told to do. So I'd get these insights reports and be like, moms are unhappy. Moms are struggling. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. But I didn't understand. So I was like, well, they're unhappy. They're struggling. Their kids don't sleep. Their stomachs hurt. Right. So let's give them Sprite Zero to help their baby's colic. This was in 2009. So it's not even that long ago.
Oh my God.
But instead of the marketing to say something like, hey, let's help these moms, at the time, let's actually help the moms. It was just like doctors sometimes now, they're just putting Band-Aids on problems instead of treating the problem, or treating the issue or whatever the saying.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so cool now that we're actually everyone's waking up and trying to help parents that are you're trying to help parents that are taking care of their parents and coordinating with their family members and, coordinating the kids' schedules and everything in between. Because it's just, you're supposed to suck it up. My family's always like, suck it up, Brooke. Stop complaining. Just suck it up and do it. I'm like, but this is, I don't want to suck it up. I want to be happy. I don't want to be the moms that way.
Right?
Why can't I?
Why do you have to? That's always my answer. I'm like, why do I have to? Why is the option for me to continue to get kicked in the teeth and be told to smile? This is a raw deal and I'll trade places with you.
Right.
Right. Cause how quickly it's that idea of there's so many things going on in the world right now that are terrible and heinous. And I can't think of an example that is not going to incite some sort of whatever, but it's if men could have babies, you get an abortion at a gas station. It's that whole, I mean, to just dabble in the political, it's that idea of telling people what they need and what they don't need and suck it up and making choices for other people. It's you have to be the person that's in the middle of that experience.
Oh, for sure.
To be able to speak to it.
Exactly. So I had my first mastectomy. I don't know if you've had one yet. Is this okay to talk about a mastectomy?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So my mom's, my aunt, my grandma have all passed away from breast cancer. My mom has breast cancer. So when I turned 35 a few years ago, I was like, can I get is that mastectomy? What's it called? Yeah. No, mammogram. Sorry, mammogram.
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 Yeah.
And my doctors were like, no, you're too young. We're not giving you a mammogram. I'm like, literally everyone in my family has died of breast cancer or has breast cancer. I feel like I should get a mammogram. And they're like, no, no, no. And so I had to go to 3 different OBs to finally get someone to give me a mammogram. And I don't even really know what a mammogram is. I just know I Googled something where I was like, I don't want breast cancer. How do you detect it? And mammogram came.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what it is. Then finally I go in to get it. And it's this big thing. And for those who don't know, it smashes your boobs into a pancake.
Yes.
And I started, first of all, I didn't know what to expect. Second of all, I started screaming because it hurt like hell. And I was so angry walking out. And my husband's like, what's wrong? Why are you so angry? She's got a mammogram. It's not the end of the world. And I was like, imagine your penis smashed, that was how men had to detect their cancer.
Yes.
That would not be the method. There would be something technology made a lot better. And I say this a lot because there is some smart woman out there who could figure out the technology. So that way, this is not the way we find out breast cancer.
Yeah.
There has to be another way. I'm convinced.
Right. It's right. Oh,
smashing your boob into a pancake can't be the answer to things.
When I had my first one, I remember the lady was like, it's actually better if you just don't look. And I was like, Oh, okay. Like, we are not in Kansas anymore. I have entered this realm of healthcare that, like, I came from a healthcare background. So I'm like, I understand this. And, I understand how this all works and why we do this and all of this stuff. But like, when you get in there and someone's like, literally like, don't look, it'll be over soon. And I'm like, if this isn't women's healthcare in a nutshell, like, I went home from the hospital after having a baby and they were like, take 3 Motrin, take 4 if you got a lot of pain. My husband had a vasectomy and they were like, here's some Vicodin.
And 3 days icing
like,
with nothing.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, hold the phone. And the explanation is like, well, your body is meant to do this. And I'm like, let's backpedal a little bit. Like, meant to is not necessarily a get out of jail free card for like me not like it hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah.
It's
for sure. Oh. Have you read the book The Red Tent?
Yes.
And so
yes,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So when women, for those who haven't read it, who listen to this, it's the story of Dina, one of the sisters of Joseph, one of the only sister, I believe. Anyways, and it talks about this tent where all the women go when they get their period. They go to this tent. And in this tent, it's like magical. All the women are bathing each other. You're washing your hair, you're resting. You have the baby. Someone's holding your baby all the time while the mom rests, and everyone's cleaning the mom and catering and feeding the mom and always holding and taking care of the baby. When women get their period, everyone takes care of their kids for them. And they get to go to this tent. And then when they're out of the tent, they're taking care of other people's kids. But the point is like, you're getting cared for. Like, you have a baby. You're not just taking 3 Motrin, going back home, going back to life, right? You are staying there. You're resting. You're getting cleaned up. You're getting cared for. You're fed. You're not the one making meals again. Like, until this mom is like really set up for success, I guess you would say, then she can leave the tent. Like, she had to pass these tests of like, she can stand and lift properly. She is not bleeding anymore. She's like all these things, like she's fully healed. And then she can leave the tent, go back to life. But that doesn't happen. Like, do you have any COVID babies? Or did you have any?
My son, my 4th baby was born 3 days before the world shut down.
Oh my.
I came home from the hospital and then the next day we went into lockdown.
Oh my gosh. That
bananas.
Yes. I had a baby October 2020, and it was the time Delta was peaking. And they were like, oh, it's your second? And I was like, yeah. They're like, you should be out of here in like 10 to 15 hours tops. So I went in at 4 a.m. and I left at 7:30 p.m. Like, I just missed my son going to bed. And then on my way home from the hospital, my father called me and he's like, can you pick me up Chipotle? And I'm like, I just had a baby.
You were like,
I'm not stopping at Chipotle with my newborn on the way home for you.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I haven't eaten all day. I'm like, funny thing, neither have I. Like,
guess what? I'm going to Chipotle. What do you want? Because I'm going to eat it. Yeah. I'm going to take it home and I'm going to eat it. Because want to talk about work days? Comparatively speaking, I win. I win life today.
It's like, I watched your toddler all day long for you. Really? Because I just gave birth in a mask. So I think that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So angry. And when I came home, we had a power outage too with my second. And it's COVID. And so I called the hospital back. I'm like, hey, I don't have any power. And so I can't pump. And like, can I come back? And they're like, this is not a hospital. This is not a hotel, And I'm like, well, you just gave me free diapers and free baby wash. What's like a hotel? Can I please come?
Yeah, right.
And you have electricity and I don't with the newborn. Please let me. I just checked out of here. Less than like.
Yeah. So what did you do? You just stayed home?
We just was home with no electricity. I just couldn't pump. But I didn't have the battery pump. Breast pump, I only had a plug-in. And so I just manually squeezed. Like, it was just, it was, I don't know how I survived. Sometimes I'm like, how did I survive COVID with a newborn, a 2-year-old? My parents were living with me at the time to help. So there was just a lot of us in one space. And
And you're still bringing home dinner from the hospital.
And still bring home Chipotle from the hospital. So I'm like bringing this 2-day-old baby into Chipotle. I did it. I got in the Chipotle.
You did it?
I brought in my newborn,
Oh
2
my
days
God.
old. It's COVID. I'm in a mask, waddling, still look pregnant. Grab the Chipotle because my husband was in the car waiting. I grabbed the Chipotle. I'm like,
stop it.
I should
Oh
let him
my
go get it, like in
God.
2020 hindsight. But it was my parents, so I like got the baby. I went in and Karen. Let's talk about like carrying the car seat. It's so bad right after giving birth too. That the like how it goes over your shoulder. Like,
Yeah.
if a man had to be the one who just gave birth and carrying that thing, it would be completely different redesign.
Oh yeah.
But
where was it? Oh, when we were buying baby furniture and all that stuff, there was a stroller in the store that I remember. It either power folded. I think it was power folded. And I was like, what is this? And it's like apparently some company, they designed the golf carts, the like powered golf carts. And they had designed this stroller and they were carrying it. And I was like, why? Why is that the thing? Right? Because like, can we design a better handle on a car seat?
Right.
First, just a thought.
Yeah.
That's
totally. Have you seen the electric strollers they have now?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Stop it. Really?
Cozy has one. So if you just stand near it, it like pushes the stroller for you. Or maybe it just shakes it back and forth, so you're not going like this all the time. And I think it also moves with you. And then there's another stroller that like you have like something in your pocket, almost like a electric thing, and you can steer the stroller.
Oh gee.
And you can go up. It's like for like going uphill. So yeah.
Like a lawnmower, but with your child in it.
Pretty much.
That's nuts. I just like, again, so marketing. Oh, here's a question. Marketing. So this was a couple years ago with the Super Bowl with the baby Frida ad. Do you remember that? It was the mom, the newly postpartum mom, and they were like, we have to censor this because like it's too raw.
Yeah.
And then they aired the commercial anyway. They like cut the middle out and they were like, we were told that we couldn't air this on the Super Bowl, yada yada. Like, what do you make of that? How do you?
Well, so the Super Bowl, I mean, the reason so backing up, the Super Bowl is the largest watched thing, right, in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So it has the most women if you're going to like run an advertisement because women watch the Super Bowl for the halftime show and they ran it close to the halftime show. So yeah, I mean, it was very ballsy and really, I'm happy they did it. And I think what's interesting about Frida actually is I know a lot of men now that are working for Frida, and they hired him, my friend Trevor, because they want men to learn what it's really like about postpartum, which I thought was interesting.
Cool.
So they want it like he has to like go in and sell like, this is the postpartum underwear. Here's the sucker for the no. Like, this is what it really is, so that like men know how harsh it is, which I don't know if that's like officially what they're trying to do, but like I think that's really cool that they are, trying to get men more educated and understanding what's happening and, being better. I think being a better partner is half the battle right now for postpartum. Not being a better partner, but being an educated partner. And so like one of the companies I actually work for right now is called Villy. And Villy what we do is we have you connect to your village. So your family members, and you invite them the minute you find out you're pregnant, kind of how you tell people you're pregnant. And that way you can start posting on this like private site of like what you need, like not like, oh, this cute onesie that you found, some store, but like what I actually need from you is to help me pay for my childcare. Hey, what I actually need from you is to help me pay for a postpartum lactation consultant or doula, like all these things that moms really need, and helping your village actually support you or like know what's really happening to you when you gave birth or like right before you're giving birth. Like, I have gestational diabetes, so please don't send me a cake, right. Just like know what's happening to mom so they can be a better supporter throughout her pregnancy and throughout her motherhood. Like you can send mom's meals or all those things that she needs. And I think that's what's needing to happen. Like more brands and companies are trying to do that. So that way it's not just like mom looking cute pumping anymore. It's like, no, like dad can be tracking her milk while she's pumping. And like, so how more family members, whether it's a dad or I should say other partner or the grandparents, aunts, uncles can be more involved again in families. So
I love that because, like there's so much conversation that happens right now about like the mental load and the invisible load of parenting and stuff like that. And really, truly, like it is known. I think it is known. And I think that I think it's great that these conversations are happening. But on the other side of it is, well, it's not really a but, it's more of an and. And on the other side of it is, how do you make these changes? And it's how do you change anything, right? It's awareness and education and having the tools and having the resources and having all of those in place. So if you're actually putting the people in place that are learning these pieces, who are able to go, it's the whole butterfly effect of life and I'm assuming that plays a part in the advertising and the marketing world, is like, if you can change one person's mind, if you can open up the conversation for one, then what are we doing here?
yeah. Or even like, I think for me, like I have a younger brother. He's like 8 years younger than me. So when, he knows nothing about babies. And when I'm like, hey, can you help me XYZ? He's like, what? Like, that seems, why can't you grab that blanket yourself? Or like, what? Really had no idea, 24-year-old boy when I had it. And so, but I think over time, if I like educating him about like helping me, he can now help his sister-in-law who's pregnant. And he's like, oh yeah, let me help you. Like I had to like break him into like teach him, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then now like our parents are getting older and like, hey, like mom and like literally no offense, like a dad who has like any prostate issues. I think that's your prostate. And babies in diapers are very similar, depends, Pampers, like all that. Like, I think it's like helping that, like, it's a circle of life. So if you can learn to like be really helpful when you're, a sister with kids as your parents get older, like it's just a skill set to learn how to help people that I think a lot of us have lost in this individualistic, capitalistic society, right? And there's a balance of being like not selfish, but like doing what's best for you. But it's also a skill to learn how to help others and in what ways and the questions you can ask and not fighting people and how to like my brother work with my brother-in-law, to put the crib together was like something I needed to happen. And like, they've never talked before, but you guys have to figure out how to work together. And like, or like my first real meeting with my sister-in-law was when she was having her baby and I was there to help her. And we never really talked before, but like that was a time where we learned to work together. And, once you see someone's vagina or boobs, you're like best friends at that point. Right?
I mean, I've had 4 kids. So like, when I went into the hospital to have my 4th kid, they were like, okay, and we're just going to pull this curtain around. I'm like, you understand that like I could have this baby in the parking lot at this point. Like my intention here is to not be pregnant anymore. And I did not have like a fast delivery. I was not in a category of that, but just that idea of, people, I think that a lot of times what happens is like so many women grow up in this culture of like care and expectation of care and expectation of say sacrifice, but expectation of like managing things for other people. And then it just carries on, right? It carries on in relationships and then it carries on. And then you sort of double down on it in motherhood where it's like, well, you should know this stuff, right? Because like you've been taking care of everybody like forever. But what that does is it cuts off the other person from being able to learn. It cuts off from the other person being able to struggle and to get it wrong and to do all of that stuff because like the stakes are still really high for moms in terms of like, if you're doing a great job or you're doing an okay job, like there's a very, very fine line between you're awesome and you're a hot mess. And it's not that same way on the other side, but for whatever reason, like having, a country mile in between like a crappy job as a dad and a great job as a dad, for whatever reason, that country mile has made it so impossible. And I'm like, oh, like we could build a whole city on that country mile if we were moms, like if we had that, if we weren't walking the tightrope the whole time.
Yeah. And to your point, it is totally passed down, which I think was my like wake up call. Was like, so I got married at 21. So I was very, very, very young. And so my husband got to go from living with mom to living with me. And it was like, for me, I was like getting to play wife. Like it was so fun. I didn't know at 21. And then the minute I had my kids, I was like, wait a minute. I don't want to, I'm not taking care of you and my kids. Like I can't. Like I literally, and it was like this, my husband had this like, wait a minute. Like I have to take care of myself now. Like, my doctor's appointments, I have to make myself, like all these things. He had this like, whoa. And then with my daughter, so I have an older son and a younger daughter. It's amazing how much like I coddled my son. He can't do anything himself, put on my shoes like this. And then my daughter does everything for him. She's 3 and he's 5. And my daughter will be like, okay, Jace, I'm putting on your shoes now. And my son is 5. And he'll be like, okay, wipe my butt. And my daughter's like, okay, I got it. Like,
oh God.
She doesn't care. She's wiping. But like, my son would never think to try and wipe someone's butt. He would never think, or if someone gets hurt, my son's not like, oh, let me go help you, and get you a bunny or
yeah.
But my daughter just like, it's almost like, I don't know if it's like generational or trauma, but like generational passed down. Like she just can know to like, gonna get him a boo-boo bunny. He coughed. I need to all of a sudden give him a thermometer. She's like making the plans for the day. She's like, first we're gonna like, that's also her personality, but like, it's still so ingrained to her as like a woman. And then my husband and my son just kind of like following along for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Did it change? So did it change after the kids were born? Like when you were like, hey, this planner is yours and yours alone. See you later. Like,
yeah, no, definitely like there was a learning curve for everyone, my son and my husband a lot lately, because I don't want my daughter to be, having to take care of her 5-year-old brother. Like, I mean, he's autistic. So like, yes, in some sense, but like he also he can learn to take care. He can like learn himself, or he has to learn those skills, I should say, like that's on me to teach him the skills, not my daughter to just do everything for him,
Mm-hmm.
Same with like watching my husband being like, oh, I can't do XYZ. And then I go do it because I'm frustrated with it. Like, I don't want my daughter to learn that's okay. So I've had to be like, no, I have to be patient, hold my type A personality and watch you struggle. Struggle for 28 minutes for you to make your own goddamn sandwich, but like, it sounds terrible, but like, I almost feel like a lot of us women have to like break down this stuff, I guess, break down these walls now, which is the hard part.
You have to,
and creating more.
Yeah, it's the stop doing.
Yes. Stop doing for everyone, like trying to be a savior. I'm always trying to be the savior and trying to help and trying to fix and trying to like, if something isn't working, I feel like it's on me to fix it. And it can't be that all the time. And I feel like that's what happens when I go into businesses too. Like, I'm like always trying to fix things. And like, and then sometimes I realize like, okay, like some things you have to kind of adapt and you have to figure out like another way to do things. And my brain works differently, like you were saying, than everyone else's, where I'm like, yeah, like here's a 200 spreadsheet with this, and that. And most people are like, whoa, how did you do that in a day?
Right? I love it. So what is, so creating sprinkles, you've really come full circle. So you pull all these resources together, but you also pull all these people together, right? Because people aren't just like, oh, this coffee shop is open. It's like this coffee shop is open and there are all these other people there. So you're bringing the people together, which I think is probably arguably one of the hardest parts of motherhood if we really take a look at it. I mean, there's physical parts that are hard and emotional parts and things like that, but like finding community and finding other spaces where there are people that are going through the same thing you're going through as you're going through it, I feel like is one of the hardest parts of motherhood.
Yeah. What's always interesting to me is when I do actually my single mom meetups. Like they're either single moms by choice or they're single moms because their husband left them because they told them they were pregnant and the father didn't want the child, or like whatever the situation be, a single mom meetup. But those are always, for me, when I go to them, I'm always like so wowed, and they're just so impactful because they have such a hard time. They frankly don't have the time to make friends easily. They don't have time for anything. They can't be like, oh, here, parent X, watch my kid while I go to mommy yoga by myself, right? Like they don't have that. So those are the most impactful things. It's like having any of like the divorced mom, single moms meet up. When I do like mom meetup, when it was like by baby age, I do like neurotypical or neurodivergent, excuse me, parent meetup because a lot of us, like with my son, like it's hard sometimes going out in public with him because he might have a meltdown. He might be screaming. He might be. So if all of us go to one coffee shop together and we can all sit in the corner and our kids act up, it's not as bad. Like we're all of our kids, we're all in the same space together and not embarrassed if like, the perfect one kid that can sit there quietly. I've never had that child, but like I've heard those.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And and that's too, like, that's so important because it is often, I think, where it's easier to meet up with people if this is your situation, right? Like you have another parent or you are, whatever, wherever you are career-wise, you have a long maternity leave, you have maternity leave. In some places, you even have maternity leave. And you have the ability and the access to get to those places. But you're creating spaces for people. Like, I don't think that the lift that involves getting out of the house as a single parent, that is putting something on the calendar that has an element of you in it. Like, I think, as it's really easy to be like, well, no, I'll just do that later. Like, I'll get coffee later. But like creating a space for people that wouldn't necessarily put themselves on the list is amazing.
Yeah. And to look forward to. It's a big thing too. Or again, in California, it's really expensive to live. So a lot of us live intergenerationally. So you might live with your grandparents in your house or, in like a cottage next to your house. And then you have the main house or something. So lots of parents come, grandparents nearby. So like grandparent meetups. So all the grandparents that are taking care of their kids, they like doing these meetups too, so that because some of them may have moved because they're living across the country from their kids or, and they need more care from the parents. And now me as a parent, I have the grandparents I'm taking care of and my kids I'm taking care of. So my grandparents have, like all the grandparents have their meetup and they talk about the doctors that they can all go to. And then, their moms might have the meetup where we're like trying to figure out like, okay, I have my father-in-law's doctor's appointment and then I have my kids preschool. And then like, we're the motherships, it feels like.
Yeah.
So like all these different things and dynamics, just making, I try and figure, I'm really trying to crack the code how to make parenting easy. I don't know if I will ever do that, but that's my mission is to work with a company that does that, me do that. So I'll make parenting.
Yeah. Well, and also too, it's not even that you're just trying to make parenting easier. You're trying to make parenting more accessible. You're trying to make parenting more community based. Like you're going back to, the red tent.
Yes.
It's Anita, I think it's Anita Diamant that wrote that. And that is like, that's what it's all about, right? Is like, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the red tent and just the women and all of that. But like, you're creating all of these little tents for people to be able to find their space.
Yeah.
The intergenerational thing, that's my love language, right? But it's true. It's that they're like, how do you manage those pieces and how do you have them all layer together in a way that makes sense, not only for you, but for them too.
Yeah. It's hard for them. Like, I think, talking your love language a second, it's like my parents have a hard time asking for help. There's like the sense of embarrassment or there's this like, or if there's this sense of entitlement, it can kind of, depending on the day, either way, like, of course you're going to take me to the doctor. And it's like, whoa, wait, like I have a work meeting at that time. Like, whoa, you need to like run that by me before I can just like. So I think it's also that balancing act that at least I feel as a parent, I'm kind of in between. Like my parents sort of help me, but I'm also sort of helping them figure out, the interweb. So some, like they don't really love technology. So I'm like their tech associate, but like they're also my childcare, but sometimes they're also my children.
Yeah.
It's
are they living with you?
Well, they don't. Well, sort of. The way it works is when I'm in my rental unit. We have a rental unit. So I rent it out. But then sometimes when I need childcare, like I'm traveling to the ABC Kids Expo next week. And then there's another family tech conference I'm going to. And so I just have a lot of work travel. So I need them to come watch my kids for a few months just because every other week I'm traveling. So they stay with me for a month, 2 months at a time. And then they go back. And then I'll need childcare in all of August. So I'll probably go to them and then stay with them for a month. So sometimes they're staying with me. Sometimes I'm staying with them. We have I think in a perfect world, they would just have me move back to where I grew up near them. And in a perfect world, I want my parents to just move here and make their own friends. So,
And you're facilitating that though. You're like, listen, guys, I am building
yeah,
this whole landing space for you.
yeah,
If you could just, and they're like, internet? No.
right. But I think there's also like, at least I'm struggling, or I think about it where like I had this rental unit and originally they were going to live here. Again, I had my baby in the pandemic. They were going to live here, help take care of my baby with me. Like, yeah, shish kumbah. But I think like living with me, living together is a lot. When you are really, again, taking care of them and they're taking care of them too,
Yeah.
Because if my baby's hungry and my dad wants Chipotle, like, I don't know who's going to win in that. It's a hard.
Yeah.
So I think
and you're in the middle.
I'm in the middle and it's like, well, I'm being a bad daughter. I am not helping, he's hungry now. But my baby's also hungry. So it's a weird dynamic, I guess. So like, I'd like it if they could live by themselves. So I think like a perfect world, living by yourself or something like that could, but they still need your help. Yeah. So do you know what the perfect solution is? Like, is it better to live with your aging parents so they're in your house and you can see them? Is it better to be like, have them in their own house where they're always calling you to help? Like, I've yet to figure out as a sandwicher, like what's the best mix.
Yeah, I feel like that, that is like the $64,000 question plus inflation, because it's just this notion of like, there's so many dynamics and there's so many layers. Like there's layers of the relationship and then there's layers of like commingling things when it comes to community and it comes to access and it comes to then then it's like, what's the level of care that they need? What's the level of care that you're able to provide? Is there a way to bridge the gap between what you can provide and what they need if there is a gap there? And then it's like, it's like human Tetris. And then on top of that is, or below that, wherever you put it, somewhere in the equation is, how old are my kids? How many kids do I have? What do they have for activities? Where they like, there is all of that together. And so I think that's the piece, is that it's just such a moving target that having a way to stay on top of things and organize things and strategize, like with siblings and things like that, is the essential function that is it requires a level of communication that does not work based on current practices.
For sure. Because even like you're saying with siblings, like if my parents live with me, right? And then like, well, am I paying for all their food all of a sudden? They're paying for my food.
Yeah.
But then my brother's like, well, it's not fair. They're paying for your food. Like your siblings are like, wait, why should they pay for your meals? And they're not paying, helping my meals. And it's like, okay. So I think to your point, there's all this like hard dynamics too with your siblings that like it all gets so sticky. Cause like, yeah, like my parents shouldn't have to pay for my meals every day. Right. Like I'm working.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they live with me. But then how do we split meals? Like, how do you then, okay, they live separately, but I'm always there fixing. Like, it's just very sticky as your parents get older when it comes to either your finances, who's taking care of what appointments, all that. And like, are my kids more important than my parents? Like, that's always another thing that, me and my siblings also talk about. Like, I would argue yes, but like, they would be like, no, that's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's the thing. It's so individual. The dynamics are so individual. Like you can have a sibling that lives like across the country, and it's like, well, you can't help with the hands-on, but what are the things that you can help with, and how do we facilitate that? Which Oh, I could go on. I could really go on and on for hours and hours on it. But I just think that's the piece, because we need to have a way to bring all of this stuff to light, but have a way to deal with it, right? Like you have the dynamics of childcare and all of the work that you put in when you were at Clorox and bringing those pieces in. And then to take all of that info and be like, you know what, listen, I've done the heavy lifting and the groundwork, and here is where I'm going to start the equation or start the conversation. And then you just keep moving the conversation up and up and up. And you pull in resources and you pull in strategy and you pull in communication. And I think that's what's going to happen with care. Because it is, we have businesses are looking at care tech for caregivers, for maternity leave, for all of these things because of everything that you went through. It's this like, well, this can't be right. Like, it just can't be right. And it can't be the way that things go. And now as the population ages, 10,000 people a day in this country turn 65, and they will until 2030.
Wow.
Yeah. 1 in 5 Americans is going to be a caregiver for someone over the age of 65 by 2030. It's like, yeah.
That's crazy. And
it is crazy.
And I mean, this is going to sound selfish, but how many of us can actually be a caregiver in that sense?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, selfishly, like, I have little kids that I probably can't be me. It might fall on my brother. Brother's a 25-year-old boy. Probably, not really going to be him. So then what, and then, but people aren't old enough for homes, but they're not, it's going to be so sticky. The next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is it? The statistic is that family caregivers provided more care. They provide more care than Medicare.
Really?
It's a Medicare or Medicaid. I'm going to look this up because I don't want it to be wrong.
Well, there's
but yes,
pays you to care for your parents now, right? They like train you. Forget what it's called. I saw them at the Hearst Lab pitch competition. I forget what it's called. And they'll pay you so you can learn how to like care for your family.
Yeah. Family caregivers provide more long-term care nationwide than Medicaid.
Oh. This
is it. Family caregivers are this country's long-term care plan. It's not Medicaid. It's a whole, and I mean, really, like I could do a whole podcast episode just on the dynamics of healthcare and caregiving and like the implications behind it. It's a whole black hole of like time and resources and all of that. Maybe I will. Maybe
you should. I was gonna say, why don't you? It seems like a very interesting. I'd like to listen to it. And are you going to? There's the Care Summit, I think, next week.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, I'll be there. Or in 2 weeks, I'll be there.
It's in San Francisco. I think I have a ticket.
But yeah, no, I think what you're doing is incredible because really, like, the resources are what are going to make the difference for people. So what, when you look to the future of Sprinkles and like, where do you see that going? Where do you want it to go?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I feel like it's going with my son, is really leading my purpose. And one of the reasons is, and I think for me, it's probably going to be helping more neurodiverse families figuring out what resources we need to keep going, because I feel like we're burning out a lot. I mean, it's hard being a mother. Like, I know that, but I like from seeing my neurodiverse boy and my neurotypical girl, like the night and day of like, I really feel like I want to try and help more solutions for neurodiverse parents and the overwhelm of like taking care of their parents and like the doctor's appointments and the, all the appointments we're running around to. I just having more education, more support, more easy systems for that, and more like fun along the way. Like I said, those coffee meetups, those brewery meetups, those whatever it could be, just to like connect with others and not feel so alone. Because it's kind of lonely.
I think it's not just lonely being a parent, but it's also really lonely being a parent of a neurodiverse child, because you have that isolation piece. Like you're saying earlier, like, do you want to go out for a coffee and to go out and grab coffee? But like, you don't know what the situation's going to be. Like, is something going to be too much for you? Is it going to be the wrong time? Is there going to be, there's so many variables to think about and consider that you end up like, well, just make coffee at home.
Right. Like, will I get a call? I have to pick him up from school now. I mean, most parents, when the kids are sick all the time, right? Like at any moment you're going to get called to get a kid sick from school. Oh, he got in trouble and was sending home, or a hard day, or, running to a doctor's appointment. So anyway, so I think if I were to guess where Sprinkle's parents is going, will probably be more helping figuring out solutions for neurodiverse families as my son's aging up too. But yeah, I mean, and also like I just love helping parent companies like get to these parents so that way they know it exists. Because that's half the battle. All the amazing stuff that's happening in space, like, in femtech or in what's her the ventures, childhood ventures, Charlotte Michaelides. There's so many great things happening and great technologies and resources. And I just want to, like, my teeth are grinding because I want to get all, like, these parents are sitting here saying help. Everyone's trying to make these solutions, just how to help everyone connect the dots without feeling overwhelmed or blowing through their money or like, what is that right mix? I just really want to crack the code on too.
I love it. Well, for everybody that is listening, that is like, this lady has spreadsheets. I need spreadsheets. I want spreadsheets. Help me with the resources. And especially like if you live in the Bay Area and you're like, you know what? I would like coffee with a changing table in the building, because I have done the poop explosion in the stroller change and I highly do not recommend. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can check me out. I have a Facebook page, Sprinkles Parents, and Instagram, also Sprinkles Parents. And you can sign up for my email on sprinklesparents.com. That's where you can find me next week. I don't know when you're going to post this, but you can watch the reporting of Will's Trust in the State, so you can figure out how to plan your child's like plans. If God forbid something happens to you, it's important. And, just there are lots of resources that I just want to help make parenting easier. So thank you so much for having me, and this chat was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for coming on. I really do feel like we could sit here and we could go in like 7 different directions and just keep it recording. But I don't know how long this program lets me run for. But
I think I just heard a child scream and fall down the stairs. my childcare might not be doing the best of job right now on. So,
well, thank you. I really thank you for your time, because I know that it is tricky to coordinate all these things. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day, night, morning.